Welcome back, everyone. A little bit of a vacation for me. Well, it wasn't really a vacation, but been out of touch for a week or two, and this is episode 9, and we're getting back on it. So we're going to cover a few things today, and I'm not sure of the exact content, so we will roll right into it. We're just going to roll on the fly today. So we'll be back after a short break and dig right in. Just remember that you can reach us always at info@IamNylis.com or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/IamNylis, or on Twitter @IamNylis. Have you ever wanted to express your beliefs by wearing a baseball cap? Many of us wear caps. Many of us fly flags in front of our house. Well, our friends at US-specialties.com have a great selection of what you want to have. Anything from military to first responder to faith or religious or even Second Amendment caps or flags you might want. You need to go out and check out US-specialties.com and put in discount code IamNylis for a huge discount of 40% off everything store-wide. That's an amazing discount from an amazing company. Go out there and check them out at us-specialties.com. And don't forget the discount code IamNylis for 40% off. You will be helping veterans. They thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We're back, and our first topic tonight that I want to talk about is, I know it's a little late, it's already over with, but the College World Series. The College World Series, I went down and drove Uber and Lyft for the College World Series, and that was the biggest event I've ever driven for, and I was there for a lot of it. I wasn't there for all of it, but most of it anyway. And those kind of events are just kind of amazing how many people come in for them. And there's a lot more to it than just, getting rides and stuff like that. There's also hotels, and a big thing that happened this year was there was a big hoopla about surge and prime pricing. The Lyft and Uber drivers were threatening to strike. There was just a bunch of stuff going on there. Partially because, and this all came about because the state declared a state of emergency due to flooding that started to happen again for a second time and be pretty severe, and it closed down I-29 in 2 different locations, quite a bit of it actually. And the governor had to declare a state of emergency due to flooding and some other issues there. And Nebraska has a law that says if the governor declares a state of emergency, the TNCs, or the transportation networking companies, which are Lyft, Uber, any of those, they cannot charge surge pricing, which I think is pretty ridiculous, because the big thing that happened down there was that everybody was like, wait a minute, without surge and whatever, then we won't drive, and a bunch of the drivers are talking about not driving, and so it was a big news story down there when I was down there, and the governor signed basically a stay of execution, if you will. He signed off an executive order right before CWS that said that they could have surge and prime pricing, and there was some opposition to it, and it went ahead and happened, and so a lot of drivers came back out and drove, but those of us that came down to drive, we already made reservations with Airbnbs and everything else, and or family and friends. There was some people that stayed with family and friends, and they were able to drive. But what I find a little bit wrong is that why is it a law in Nebraska that the transportation network companies, or the TNCs, cannot have prime or surge when there's a state of emergency, but in the case of these states of emergency, this is like floods, and the people that need to stay in hotels or motels or whatever because they've lost their house or things like this happen, these hotels jack their price up enormously. A hotel that I'd stayed in before that was about $80 was somewhere in upwards of $400+ a night during the College World Series. So how is it that they can jack their price up 300-400% and for these big events if there's a state of emergency? So I'm like, wait a minute, that just doesn't sound right. If the transportation companies are basically just giving people rides, and at the College World Series, most of the people there that needed a ride were not in dire need because they had been lost their house or whatever, and they were trying to get from work to home or whatever, and the prices went up. They're not trying to do that at 10 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. But that's only when the prices go up around there. Now, but the hotels, they could jack their price up 400%. And what about those people that were staying there? I don't know what they did. There were some people that said they couldn't stay in the hotels anywhere close because all the way around that place, I mean, all the way almost to Sioux City and south a certain direction. I'm not even sure how far south it went. West, I know at least Fremont and farther Waterloo, and just farther west, probably all the way to Lincoln. And east, past Council Bluffs and obviously, and out towards the east, all these hotels were full and booked at 300-400% their normal rates. That's just not right. And if anything, I'd advocate that if a state's going to have a law about a state of emergency, then all companies that cater to hospitality and other things that could be affected by the state of emergency where people stay or whatever, that should also be limited to their base fare or their base fee that they normally charge, what their published room rate is. I know they usually give it out below that published room rate, but that should be the lowest or the highest they can go. They shouldn't be able to jack it up 400% or more. And that actually goes for Airbnbs and just anything like that. I mean, if there's a state of emergency, it's there for a reason. And usually hotels and places to stay are really the issue more than driving. I don't know. It just felt to me that the prices were way big, way too much for if there was a state of emergency. I understand under normal circumstances, events like this drive prices up and it's a supply and demand thing. But if you're going to have a law that says state of emergency, no price gouging, says right in there, and the reason why they do this, well, it's price gouging. If there's a state of emergency, then the hotels have to drop their price or something. Or they need to take that law away and not have it for the TNCs. Anyway, also on these big events, what I also wanted to talk about on the big events is just the amount of people and trying to navigate and get around in there. If you ever go to these big events, actually taking Lyft or Uber or any other rideshare service that might be in that area is probably a wise idea, because there were so many people that tried to park, tried to drive, tried to get out of there. It was a massive mess. There was traffic for, at the end of the late night game, when the last game or whatever, there you would be stuck in traffic for 20 to 30 minutes with no problem. That was a bare minimum to try to get out of that area. So us as drivers would call the people. Some of us were smart enough to call them and say, hey, get to this location I know you're pretty close, but if you get to this location, it's going to cut 20 minutes off our time getting out of this mess. And then we would get and pick up those people, and we'd be able to zoom out, just get out away from that stuff, and then get out around. It might have been a longer drive per se, but they saved 20, 30 minutes on their time. Another thing I wanted to mention about the College World Series, if there's anybody out there wanting to go next year for 2020, you know, the Vanderbilt, or Vandy as they're called, won the College World Series this year, and they're probably going to be a heavy contender for next year. And the 2020 schedule, the opening ceremony is going to be on June 12th, and the opening ceremonies are always free. So if you happen to be living anywhere close, you could drive down to the opening ceremony and see all that, what's happening. I just would advise you to find a place to park away from the stadium and take a Lyft or Uber in there, and then take a ride back out or something. And then the 13th is the first game, I think at 1 p.m., and it goes all the way through till the 23rd or the 24th. The 24th would be if there's a third game that's needed in the series. So, yeah, the College World Series, I only got to see part of one game. That was kind of funny. I was getting my hair cut. I went over to the base, and I'm watching ESPN as they're showing the College World Series on the screen there while I was waiting to get my hair cut. And it was the only game I saw while I was there. I drove the whole time, about 14 to 15, 16 hours a day for 7.5 days, and it was a lot of driving. But it was fun. I did make some money, but not as much as I thought. It was hyped up quite a bit by some of the local drivers that they made all this kind of money, and I was like, I don't know where you made that money at, but it might have been different in years past. The prime and surge might have been different. Of course, they didn't have states of emergency. There was a lot of other factors that might have played in. They had, I forgot to mention, they brought scooters in. The little scooters, they are so dangerous. These people were whipping in front of us and just weaving through traffic, and it was a nightmare. They had 200 scooters that were being tested in Omaha since early spring when it warmed up just enough. They brought another 400 scooters in, so there was 600 of these things. They were all over the center of town and around. They did spread them out a little bit, but it was a nightmare, I tell you. We did not have an accident or anything like that, and so there was I didn't hear of any major accidents, so that was pretty good. But yeah, the CWS, that will be a place to visit sometime. I might even try to visit it and go to a couple games sometime without driving and actually try to enjoy the surroundings and enjoy the thing. Well, I'm going to take a short break, and I'll be back with you in a little bit. While every shelter pet is unique, some love a good game of fetch. Others would rather snuggle together on the couch. However, there is one thing that they all have in common. They're all pure love. Right now, millions of pets in shelters and rescues across the country are waiting to be adopted. My family adopted 3 dogs, 2 cats, and we just love them all, and we love to give them a special place, and they're special in our hearts. So if you're thinking about getting a pet this holiday season, make sure to visit the shelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, Maddie's Fund, and the Humane Society of America. Are you a veteran? Did you serve? Well, you know, you can always keep serving. And that is a great accomplishment and makes you feel good and gives that sense of purpose and selfless service back to you that you used to have when you were in the military, and the camaraderie. If you're not already a member of a service organization like American Legion, I would say you need to get out there and you need to join American Legion if you can, or the Veterans of Foreign Wars, or one of the other service organizations that might fit you. Get out there and join those organizations. They need your help. They need your membership. Welcome back, everyone. Well, my next topic I want to talk about is kind of hitting home right now. I have our youngest daughter. She's wanting to go to college, and we've been through the horrors and trials and tribulations of financial aid and trying to figure out what's affordable, what type of college, or what would be good. And for her, actually, what would be good for her, and what she can afford, what we can do. And I kind of wanted to talk about this subject because you've been hearing a lot lately, possibly, about the differences between going to a university, going to a community college, going to a trade school, and about how trades are desperately needing people out there. And I see it as coming down to pretty much your student, your child. I mean, what is your child's interests? I mean, if your child's interests are more working on with their hands or doing something in that respect, you have trades like welding trades, you have carpentry, you have all sorts of different kinds of trades like that, electrical work, and I've met so many of those people that make some pretty darn good money. Matter of fact, I met a couple people in the welding trade that I could have swore they made more than I did an hour. And but anyway, they did quite well. And so it kind of depends. If your child wants to maybe go into STEM, the sciences, technology, that kind of stuff, computers, cybersecurity, they're going to need a college degree. They're going to need something in that direction if they want to aspire to something a bit higher, especially going into government, and that it could be quite beneficial for their career path to get that college degree out of the way early. Then you have people, kids that kind of want to go the route of doctor, veterinarian, all those kind of fields, nursing. They, of course, have to go through the college route. But some of them, not everybody has to hit it full on. Some of these colleges, they push them to jump right in and go. And I think that, if the child is not quite understand what they want to do, they're kind of torn between a couple avenues and this kind of thing. If you have like community colleges and things like that in your area, we happen not to have a regular community college here in South Dakota that I know of, especially around the Sioux Falls area. But if you have something like that, I don't see anything wrong with the student going and getting 2 years of the core courses down and trying to get some idea where they want to go, because that 18-year-old child, the 17-year-old child coming out of high school, they sometimes have an idea what they want to do, but that idea can change over the course of the next year or two as they're starting to take courses. And I know they go to college, university or whatever, they'll be able to take some extra courses that are directed towards their field that they might be looking at, that they're planning on looking at, and they like to have them locked into a course path where they're trying to go. But I don't know, it doesn't really seem worth it a lot of times on the monetary side, that money that they're paying to go to that regular university versus a state community college, the differences. So I was, of course, lately, I've been doing a lot of research on some different things, and I found a couple different articles, a couple different things here that is quite interesting. There was a infographics type article called Trade School versus College, which is right for you infographic from Entrepreneur Magazine, I believe, published it, and Rose Leadham, July 8th, 2018. She was the one that wrote this article, and it goes on to talk about some of the costs and some of the other things that to kind of put it in perspective, and they talk about the career path, what I just said about the career path, and if you're trying to get a master's or professional degree like a doctor, and you have the time and the funds to devote to full-time college, and the education is an end in its end is a means to get to where you're trying to go. If you're trying to do just a bachelor's, or if you're trying to get the master's or professional degree, then the college or university is a good way to go. If what you're doing really only needs an associate degree, you can do that at a community college and get a 2-year degree. But then again, if you're looking at trades or vocational school, because a certificate or a diploma or an apprenticeship or something of that nature could be the way to go if your child's looking to get into the workforce as fast as possible and trying to get on with their life, and earn some decent money. So they were talking about some of the costs, and I think it's around the 2017-18 school year, they were talking about a community college. If you go to a public 2-year institution, the average cost over that 2 years would be around $7,100. And if you go to a 4-year institution, a public one, in-state tuition, your 4 years, you're going to be spending $40,000. And that's just on the tuition. That doesn't include, a couple of years where they force you to say you have to stay on campus and paying all those extra costs. This is just the tuition I'm talking about. So basically, as they point out, the average cost of a 4 years bachelor's degree in comparison to the average cost of a 2-year degree, they flat out say it's 82% higher. And that's quite a bit. If you take a look at what your kid's going to be spending, that's quite a bit. And then they go on to talk about the pay gap for the workers in the different credential levels. And I thought that was quite interesting. They quoted a comment here from median earnings for workers in Colorado after graduating in 2015. So this is some numbers from Colorado. And Colorado is not a cheap place to live, and they do have a little higher, I would say, at least from where we are, a higher not standard of living. I'm kind of wrong when I say that, but the cost of living. But anyway, they're talking about a graduate that got a certificate from like a trade or voc tech. In 10 years after they got that certificate, what they're making as a mean average would be around almost $49,000. And a 2-year institution, if they got associates, it could be Associate of Science or whatever, but they're talking Associate of Science, they probably make the most. They're saying the average after 10 years around $54,000. And a 4-year institution getting a bachelor's degree after 10 years, they'd be making around $55,000. And the exact number they quote is after 10 years, a worker with a 1-year certificate made a median of only $1,347 a year less than a worker with a bachelor. So that was quite interesting statistics. And I think 10 years, depending on what they go into, I understand this is median, and I know that if you have a bachelor's degree and you go into the right career field and you start climbing, you'll make more than $55,000 today. And of course, this was back in 2015, but even then, it seemed like you can make more than that. I know there's a bit of a difference there, but I don't know if it's quite that small right now. I mean, it's 2019 now, so I don't know if it's that little a difference, but it's not a huge difference. It's not like you're talking a certificate, they're out there making $49,000-$50,000, and a bachelor's degree is making $100,000. It's not double. It's in no way is the average. There are the people out there that in 10 years they could be making $200,000-$300,000 with a bachelor's degree in the right field, doing the right thing, and all their cards fell just right. So anyway, one of the other things that they were talking about in this is some of the fastest growing jobs that didn't require a bachelor's degree, and they were talking about employment growth between 2016 and 2026 over a 10-year period. And they're talking about home health aides, 47.3%. They're talking about I don't understand this one, but 29.3% bicycle repairers. Bicycles are coming back, and a lot of people are buying some pretty heavy-duty and expensive bikes. So I guess maybe that's correct. And they also talk about pet caretakers, 24.2%. And I have seen at a lot of these pet stores that there's a lot going on there. But so I guess it all boils down to, what your child, you really have to focus on what the child really wants. If you are sitting there saying and pushing that the child needs to go to college, they need to get that 4-year degree, they need that 4-year degree, it really depends on what they're really in their heart want to do. If they want to work with pets, and, that's a good example there. If they want to, work with pets and do veterinary stuff and that, they're probably going to have to go that way if they want to do veterinary. But if they are happy with working with pets, training them, wanting to get into something like that, then they're probably not going to need a 4-year degree to be doing that. And right now, I do want to spout off a fact that, there's like 1.3, way over this probably by now, because the article I got this out of, it was from 2018, but they talk about $1.3 trillion in student debt. That's more than 2.5 times what they owed a decade earlier. So, in 10 years, it's like 2.5 times more. People are putting so much into college, and they're having so much of college debt. It really has to seriously be taken a look at before you send your child off to college and start paying all that money, and you put all that money out for them, and they may not have actually needed to go to college for what they really wanted. There's been a lot of that going around, but I told my kids when they were freshmen, and even before that the best way to get a college degree is to join the military, as far as I was concerned, and that's my personal view. But join the military for 4 years and get your benefits and get your college degree paid for. It's one of the best ways ever, I think. The other next best thing is like doing a ROTC scholarship, ROTC, the Reserve Officer Training Corps, at a university if they're going to go, and trying to get approved for a scholarship to go ROTC, and they just serve their 4 years active and 4 years inactive if that's all they want to do, and they'll get some training and in their field more than likely, and that's also a great way to get them going and not having to pay the big bucks, but yet they should be able to go to a pretty decent school. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap up this segment. I think I've talked quite a bit about this, and that's kind of how I feel that trades are a good thing. And I think if a child wants to go that direction, definitely support them on it, because we sure need people out there that know what they're doing with their electrical, like working on your electric panel at home. The plumbers, the just all those different kinds of trades, they can make some pretty good money in those fields. And I've seen a lot of people go on to open their own business and and press forward or buy out the business they were working at. It's all a good thing. So I will cut this short, and we will be back in a few minutes. Every day we have the ability and opportunity to create a more accepting world by actively coming together and living inclusively. Even small acts of inclusion can have a big impact and make others feel loved and accepted. Because most people don't see themselves as part of the problem, they don't recognize that they can be part of the solution. Before anything else, we're all human. Start a conversation and create a deeper connection. Consider whose voices are and are not represented. Use inclusive, appropriate, and respectful language. As my grandmother used to say, respect those, and they'll respect you. Learn how you can come together at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council. Just remember that you can reach us always at info@IamNylis.com or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/IamNylis, or on Twitter @IamNylis. Well, that concludes another episode of I Am Nylis. We're going to wrap this up now. So we talked a little bit about CWS, College World Series, and I talked a little bit about college versus trade schools and community college, and some of my ideas and thoughts in that direction. And I wanted to thank again everybody for listening to I Am Nylis and participating via the Facebook page and or email on the email site at info@IamNylis.com. And I hope you come back for another episode. We're going to try to get back on a regular schedule. But I will be traveling again this week, so we'll see when the next episode. It should be out hopefully by the weekend. So we'll talk to you all later. Have you ever wanted to express your beliefs by wearing a baseball cap? Many of us wear caps. Many of us fly flags in front of our house. Well, our friends at us-specialties.com have a great selection of what you want to have. Anything from military to first responder to faith or religious or even Second Amendment caps or flags you might want. You need to go out and check out us-specialties.com and put in discount code I Am Nylis for a huge discount of 40% off everything store-wide. That's an amazing discount from an amazing company. Go out there and check them out at us-specialties.com. And don't forget the discount code I Am Nylis for 40% off. You will be helping veterans. They thank you.